Joining me now is Paul Theron from Vestact. Thank you so much, Paul. Great to have you in the studio. 8 billion rand passing through the market, flat, slightly to the negative today. Resources coming out tops though.
Not a very exciting day, and I always look for days like these where you can see one bank will be at the top of the top 40 gainers, but another bank of very similar flavor will be at the bottom. Same with the resources companies, you know, Billiton doing well, Vestact, not Vestact, Impala and so on not doing so well. So it shows you that there's not much direction. Remember, we had futures close out last week. We've got Wednesday being, you know, out of here, no trade, and it does feel a little bit like...
So expecting lighter volume throughout the week?
Yeah, and we're also kind of exiting the period where we've had big corporates reporting numbers from the December year end, so not that exciting. For me, what stood out was Billiton. Remember, Billiton, you're going to get a R4.19 dividend on Thursday. So when you come into the office on Thursday, that's a nice bit of cash flow to look forward to after the public holiday. But surely everyone is holding Billiton, Eleni. I mean, you know, the number one stock on our market.
It's up 0.7% today.
The other thing that stood out for me is the construction story. You know, people on this channel have been talking about the construction story warming up, but we've seen the Murray & Roberts is now trading X the N shares. And remember, with a rights issue, there are three things you can do. One is follow your rights. The second is not follow your rights and sell them to someone else. But the third and the only thing you must never, never do is do nothing, because if you do nothing, then the rights expire worthless.
Yeah. Okay, so Amplat's top of the top 40 today, up just over 3%. Any specific reason?
No.
And Lonmin as well. In fact, we've actually had a stronger platinum price and platinum number coming through.
Yeah, and there's been further chatter about the platinum price firming up because, of course, in recent weeks we've seen much, much stronger auto sales, particularly in America, but also in China and other places. So everybody said vehicle sales were dead, and they're obviously not. So the physical demand is starting to perk up. And then, meanwhile, back in the States, the stocks have been absolutely trashed this year. You know, platinum stocks have been getting no love for obvious reasons. But of course, you know, you can't have ongoing demand for the stuff that they produce and, you know, bad news on the supply side and expect the stocks to stay the same.
Absolutely.
So generally, I'm fairly positive about those, although lots of things to overcome there.
Absolutely. I mean, well, this is the kind of, we also heard a lot of negativity in the construction sector. That seems to be abating somewhat. So we've just got to keep in mind that these cycles come to the fore. Should we view them as opportunities to buy into specific stocks?
Yeah, you saw PPC, for example, today announcing late in the afternoon that they're going to buy a ready-mix company called Pronto. You know, I mean, this almost feels like a cement mixer truck has been parked for 5 years and they just turned it on again, and they're beginning to see whether the wet cement is, you know, still sloppy in there or whether it's gone hard.
You must be delighted, given the fact that you're such a big holder.
The ready-mix companies, oy vey, have you seen how badly they got crushed? Independent companies like Wern and so on, just about, you know, on life support. But the fact of the matter is, it's times like these where everything starts up again. The construction sector, you got to love it. The only trouble is you never know when they're going to ring the bell at the top or the bottom.
Absolutely. So ABSA is down 2% today. Bottom of the top 40, we had ARM down 1.5%, ArcelorMittal down 1.5%. So pretty much a mixed bag at the bottom. But I mean, you mentioned earlier we shouldn't really be taking too much cognizance of what is happening because we have much lighter volume. So just a bit of a mixture, top and bottom.
Yeah, I suppose so. Look, ABSA, there has been a little bit of you know, talk in the marketplace that Bob Diamond spent the last week here, and some quite odd rumors flying around about big numbers of staff potentially facing the chop in terms of retrenchment. Remember, they did lay off some of their IT department. And I guess from the investor's point of view, at the long run, there might be some positives there in terms of reduction in headcount and therefore increased margins. But in the short term, if they're cutting jobs viciously, it probably means there's something wrong over there.
Isn't this, I mean, we've seen Standard Bank, we've seen ABSA doing this before as well, just after the crash. And one would have thought that the retrenchments are over. I mean, is this a worry overall that we, you know, it might not just be ABSA, it could be other banks as well? No,
it will be other banks because the returns on equity are not what they used to be, because regulatory pressure is preventing banks from doing some of the outrageous things they did in the past to make money. So now they have to really just curb expenses and use more technology, force people not to come into the branches, that kind of thing. So clearly they need less people, but it takes a while for them to realize that. The good news, however, is that these are big organizations with lots of staff, so just through natural attrition and people retiring, they can take costs out on an ongoing basis.
African Bank, preference shares.
What a
5.5
legendary
million
company.
preference shares issued and raising 426 million rand.
Yeah, interesting, because African Bank also did a very successful corporate bond issue offshore. Very important, because African Bank naturally needs lots of cash, but it was getting anxious that too many local institutions owned its bonds. But in addition to that, they went ahead with a pref share issue, which was unusual because, remember, they were going to do it, and then the budget came out with the comments about the higher dividend taxes, which is an issue for those preference shares because that's how they distribute their returns to their shareholders. So they initially announced that they were not going to go ahead with it, and then they did go ahead with it, and there was adequate demand. But I think they must have changed the terms slightly to make it more palatable.
I will still buy for you.
Oh, forever, this year and next.
Okay, Paul, thank you very much.